They sold millions of these trucks. Dealers called them workhorses. Magazines praised their performance, and truckers were promised durability, torque, and reliability. But here's the controversial part. Some of these engines were ticking time bombs, mechanical disasters hiding behind big logos and fancy horsepower numbers. So here's the question. If you're about to drop $30,000 to $80,000 on a used truck, how do you make sure you're not buying a lemon that'll leave you stranded with a blown head gasket, oil leaks, or a $20,000 repair bill? Today, we're diving into the diesel engine nightmares you need to avoid at all costs. From failed emission systems to engines that overheated faster than your coffee, these are the most unreliable diesel truck engines ever made in the US. Stick around because the engine at number 1, it might be hiding under a truck you've had your eye on. Navistar MaxxForce 13, the DEF-less disaster 2008 to 2015. Imagine building an engine that skips DF to save money, only to create one of the most failure-prone designs in trucking history. That was the Navistar MaxxForce 13's entire game plan. Instead of using selective catalytic reduction, SCR, Navistar relied purely on EGR, exhaust gas recirculation, to meet emissions standards. The result? Overheating, soot buildup, clogged intake systems, constant breakdowns. Long-haul truckers dreaded this engine. Mechanics hated working on it. And fleet owners, some cut their losses and swapped out the entire engine. If you're ever offered a deal on a truck with a MaxxForce 13, walk away. You've probably heard the memes. If it's a 6.0, just start a GoFundMe now. This engine became infamous for its endless list of problems: blown head gaskets, failed EGR coolers, bad injectors, and weak turbochargers. It looked great on paper. 325 horsepower, plenty of torque, and that classic power stroke branding. But under the hood, a reliability nightmare that led to lawsuits between Ford and Navistar. Yes, there's a whole aftermarket community dedicated to bulletproofing the 6.0. But do you really want to spend thousands just to make your engine usable? When you hear Caterpillar, you probably think durable industrial-grade power, but the C13 ACERT was different. To meet emission standards, Cat threw in a dual turbo setup, EGR systems, and an overly complex electronics package. Instead of reliability, drivers got overheating, cracked heads, and systems that failed without warning. Shops started charging extra just to look at these engines, and when your truck spends more time in the shop than on the road, you're not making money, you're losing it. Cummins is a trusted name, but between 2007 and 2010, the ISX engine had serious teething issues. EGR, DPF systems, and emissions tech that just wasn't ready for prime time. This generation suffered constant limp mode activations, clogged filters, overheating, and crazy expensive repairs. The moment you saw that check engine light, you knew your wallet was in danger. Avoid this model range. Later, ISX 15 versions were better, but early ISX engines? Nope. The C15 was once a legend, but the ACERT version, designed to meet new EPA rules, ended up hurting Cat's entire reputation. Dual turbos, sensitive electronics, high heat, and expensive breakdowns turned this once reliable engine into a problem child. Cat left the on-highway engine market shortly after. Coincidence? Probably not. This one stings for GM fans. The 6.5-liter turbo diesel was supposed to be a heavy-duty alternative to Ford and Dodge. But it lacked power, overheated constantly, and featured the infamous PMD module, a component that failed a lot. Even with a turbo, it struggled to pull its own weight. Horsepower numbers were embarrassing. Reliability wasn't much better. If you want a GM diesel, look newer or older. But skip this one entirely. If you thought the 6.0-liter Power Stroke was bad, wait till you meet its sibling, the VT365. Same engine, different badge. Same issues: overheating, bad injectors, blown gaskets, and unreliable sensors. Used in school buses and medium-duty trucks, this engine turned routine routes into breakdown bingo. Fleet owners who had entire garages filled with these, they still talk about the pain. If you see this engine listed in a truck, just say no. Mercedes makes great luxury cars, but when it came to diesel engines for American trucks, the MBE 4000 was an underpowered, hard-to-fix nightmare. It struggled with steep grades, couldn't keep up with heavy loads, and when something broke, good luck finding parts. Shops weren't familiar with it. Parts were expensive, and downtime was brutal. Drivers hated it. Mechanics avoided it. This engine might be fine in Europe, but in North America, total misfit. The Series 60 used to be the gold standard for million-mile durability. Then they added EGR, and everything went downhill. The emission system introduced constant soot buildup, overheating, and failing coolers. Electronics were flaky, oil consumption shot up, and worse, long hauls became unpredictable. This was a textbook case of pushing emissions tech too fast, too soon, and the result? A whole generation of drivers swearing off what was once a beloved engine. Let's be fair, some engines were bad, but not total disasters. The Ford 6.4-liter Power Stroke, decent power, but awful fuel economy and DPF issues. The early Duramax LB7, solid engine, but those injectors were a nightmare. Even great brands had missteps. That's why knowing which version of an engine matters just as much as the brand name on the badge. Why engine choice matters more than ever. Buying a truck isn't just a purchase, it's an investment. And the engine is the heart of that investment. An unreliable engine doesn't just cost money, it causes delays, breaks trust with clients, puts drivers at risk, and slowly eats away at your profits. That's why it's critical to do your homework, talk to mechanics, listen to real truckers, and ignore the marketing fluff. Just because something sounds good in a brochure doesn't mean it'll keep running at 700,000 miles with a full load in the back. So, are you surprised by any engines on this list? Did you used to drive one of these? Or maybe you got burned by one? Tell us your story in the comments. We read them all. And trust us, your experience helps the next guy avoid disaster. And hey, if you found this video helpful, give it a like. If you love trucks, engines, and real-world breakdowns of what works and what doesn't, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We've got more deep dives, more engine reviews, and some wild trucking stories coming soon. Thanks for watching, and don't say we didn't warn you.